Before we begin, if you're someone who feels lost in the noise of the world, if you're searching for depth, clarity, and real psychological growth, make sure you like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to the channel for more Carl Jung-inspired wisdom. Now, let's begin. Most people believe self-improvement means becoming more visible, more active, more social, more heard. But Carl Jung believed the exact opposite. He observed that people don't lose themselves because they are weak. They lose themselves because they adapt too much to the world around them. From a very young age, we are taught how to perform, how to fit in, how to become acceptable. Slowly, without realizing it, we construct a version of ourselves that society can approve of. Carl Jung called this version the persona, the mask we wear to survive socially. And here is the danger. The longer you live through the mask, the more distant your true self becomes. You smile when you don't feel joy. You agree when something feels wrong. You stay present in places that quietly drain your energy. Over time, your inner voice fades. Jung warned that constant exposure to society suffocates the unconscious mind. That's why he believed withdrawal is not weakness, it is renewal. Disappearing does not mean abandoning your life. It means stepping back from noise, expectations, and validation so you can hear what has been buried inside you for years. Silence feels uncomfortable because it removes distraction. But Jung understood something profound. Silence is not empty. It is full of truths waiting to surface. He once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But to claim that privilege, you must be willing to disappear long enough for your true self to emerge. When most people hear the word disappear, they imagine running away, avoiding responsibilities, isolating themselves. But Carl Jung saw it differently. Disappearing is not escaping life. It is selectively withdrawing energy from the world. Think about it. We are constantly giving away our energy without realizing it. We speak to please others. We laugh when we don't feel joy. We agree when something feels wrong. We exist in situations that drain us, simply because we are visible. Jung called this false version of ourselves the persona, the mask we wear to meet society's expectations. Every time we perform for others, we feed the persona. And with every act of performance, a little bit of our true self fades. We become reactive, dependent, and distracted from our inner voice. Disappearing, in Jungian terms, means stepping back from this constant giving. It's not about isolation, it's about choosing where your energy goes. It's about creating space for your authentic self to breathe, grow, and emerge. This withdrawal also protects your unconscious. The unconscious, the hidden well of desires, fears, and potential, can only be accessed when your mind isn't scattered by the world. In practice, this might look like limiting meaningless conversations, reducing exposure to social media, saying no to obligations that drain you, spending intentional time alone. Disappearing is a conscious act of self-preservation. It is choosing silence over noise, depth over distraction, growth over approval. But when you do this consistently, you don't just vanish, you recharge, reconnect, and reclaim your true self. And that is the first step toward becoming the person Jung believed you were always meant to be: whole, aligned, and authentic. One of the hardest truths Carl Jung taught is this: the world does not reward your true self, it rewards the mask you wear. From an early age, we learn that approval comes not from authenticity, but from conformity. Be polite, be agreeable, be predictable. Slowly, we adapt to what people expect of us. Our real thoughts are silenced, our instincts are ignored, our deepest desires are postponed. The persona that mask Jung spoke of becomes a survival tool. It shields us from judgment, criticism, and rejection. And yet, it is also a prison. When you are constantly visible, performing, and responding to the expectations of others, you give your power away. Your energy is scattered. Your mind is reactive, rather than intentional. Your life begins to feel like a series of performances, rather than a journey of self-discovery. Jung believed the first step toward becoming your true self is to stop living for the applause of others. Disappearing, in this sense, is not about hiding, it's about refusing to feed the mask. It's saying, I will no longer adjust my thoughts to please the world. I will no longer censor my instincts to fit in. I will no longer dilute my depth for comfort. When you withdraw from the constant demand to be seen, judged, or validated, you create space for authenticity. Your inner self, which has been buried under layers of performance, begins to surface. This is uncomfortable at first. Fear will rise, doubt will knock, others may resist your absence. But Jung reminds us, discomfort is the necessary companion of transformation, because the moment you stop living to satisfy the world, you begin to live for yourself, and that is the true path toward becoming whole. Carl Jung often emphasized that the most important conversations we will ever have are with ourselves. Yet, in our hyper-connected world, those conversations rarely happen. We are constantly distracted. Notifications, pinging voices demanding attention, endless social obligations. The noise of the world drowns out the voice of our unconscious, that deep, hidden part of ourselves that holds our true desires, fears, and untapped potential. Jung believed that solitude is not loneliness, it is the doorway to self. When you consciously step back from constant interaction, you create a space for your mind to settle, for your heart to breathe, and for your soul to speak. This is why disappearing is powerful. It allows you to hear what has been silenced by social pressures and external expectations. In solitude, suppressed emotions surface, unresolved fears rise, hidden strengths awaken at first. This process feels uncomfortable. You may feel restless, anxious, or even lost. That is natural. Jung called it a form of initiation, the mind's way of confronting what it has ignored for years. Disappearing into solitude also reconnects you with your unconscious guidance. Your intuition becomes sharper, your decisions become clearer, your true values begin to shine through the clutter of daily life. The world may see you as absent, but internally, you are becoming more present than ever. Solitude is not escape, it is preparation. It is the crucible where the raw material of your authentic self is refined, and only through this deep, intentional withdrawal can the unconscious speak loud enough for you to finally recognize who you truly are. One of the most challenging truths Carl Jung revealed is this: you cannot discover your authentic self while clinging to the roles you've performed for the world. That from childhood, society teaches us how to act, how to behave, and how to appear. We become performers in a play we did not write. We wear masks to gain approval, avoid conflict, and stay comfortable. But here's the paradox: the longer you maintain the mask, the further you drift from your essence. The more you protect your persona, the more your true self remains buried, unnoticed even by you. Jung taught that in order to find your real identity, you must be willing to lose the self you pretend to be. This doesn't mean destroying your life. It doesn't mean abandoning relationships. It means consciously stepping away from expectations that are not yours. It means removing yourself from patterns, routines, and environments that reinforce the false self. Disappearance is a powerful tool for this process. When you withdraw, even temporarily, you stop performing, you stop reacting automatically, you stop seeking approval, and in that silence, something remarkable happens. The fear of being nobody rises, but it is precisely that fear that shakes the foundation of the false self. It forces you to confront: who am I without this mask? Who am I without approval? Who am I when no one is watching? Jung called this the beginning of individuation, the lifelong process of becoming whole, integrated, and authentic. Disappearance is not cowardice, it is courage. It is the willingness to let go of illusions in order to meet your reality, because only when you release the self you pretend to be, can the authentic self finally step forward and guide your life with clarity, depth, and true freedom. Carl Jung described individuation as the process of becoming whole, not becoming liked. It is the journey of integrating every part of yourself, the light, the shadow, the conscious and the unconscious, into one complete being. Most people mistake popularity or approval for success. They believe being liked is the ultimate goal, and so they shape themselves to fit expectations, to avoid rejection, to maintain comfort. But Jung warned that this is precisely how the true self is lost. When you live for approval, you fragment your identity. You hide your fears, suppress your instincts, and dilute your depth. You become a shadow of what you could have been. Individuation requires disappearing from the gaze of others long enough to reclaim your authenticity. It is saying no to herd thinking, to borrowed beliefs, and to emotional dependence. It is listening to your inner voice instead of echoing the world's chorus. When you disappear, you stop living you stop chasing approval. You stop performing roles that are not yours. and in that stillness, your inner authority awakens. You begin to trust your instincts, honor your values, and make choices aligned with your true self. You no longer measure your worth by others' opinions, you measure it by your own alignment. The world may not immediately recognize your transformation. That is irrelevant. What matters is that you have become whole. Jung believed that the individual who achieves this state is not easily shaken by external forces. They do not seek validation. They embody truth. They do not follow the crowd. They follow themselves. Individuation is not popularity. It is presence. It is depth. It is the emergence of a self so complete, so grounded, that the world notices, not because it is performing, but because it simply exists, fully and authentically. Carl Jung taught that within every person lies a shadow, the hidden, suppressed, and often uncomfortable parts of ourselves. It contains fears, anger, jealousy, ambition, and desires that we refuse to acknowledge. Most people live their lives distracted, constantly seeking external validation. They avoid the shadow because confronting it feels painful. They keep busy, talk too much, or hide behind social masks. But when you consciously disappear, even briefly, the shadow begins to awaken. Without external noise to distract you, the unconscious can no longer stay hidden. It rises to the surface, demanding recognition. This awakening can feel intense. You may face emotions you thought you had buried, unexpressed anger at past injustices, envy of those who achieved what you desire, fears you never allowed yourself to ignore. Jung believed that this confrontation is essential for growth. The shadow is not something to destroy or reject. It is a source of immense power. By facing it, you reclaim the energy that was trapped in fear and denial. You integrate what was once fragmented. Disappearing creates the space to meet the shadow with courage, not avoidance. You observe it, accept it, and slowly learn to use its energy consciously. The process is transformative. Those who never face their shadow remain shallow, reactive, and incomplete. Those who do emerge stronger, wiser, and more authentic. When the shadow awakens through disappearance, you realize true self-mastery does not come from pleasing others, hiding your flaws, or seeking comfort. It comes from embracing every part of yourself, even the darkness, and allowing it to shape the wholeness of your being. Disappearance is not absence, it is initiation. It is the crucible in which the raw, unacknowledged parts of your soul are revealed, integrated, and transformed into strength. When you consciously step back from constant visibility, something unexpected happens. People notice your absence, and not always in the way you might expect. Carl Jung understood that human beings are deeply uncomfortable with silence, especially when it comes from someone they are used to seeing or controlling. When you disappear, even briefly, the world feels unbalanced. Your silence breaks predictable patterns. It interrupts routines. It disrupts expectations. Some will feel uneasy. Some will feel insecure. Some will even try to pull you back in, to restore the familiar, to regain control, or simply to soothe their own discomfort. This reaction is natural. The world is conditioned to respond to presence, noise, and constant activity. When you stop performing, others sense a shift. It is not a threat to you. It is a reflection of the space you have reclaimed. Jung would argue that fear of your silence is actually a confirmation of your transformation. It shows that you are no longer predictable, no longer reactive, no longer shaped by external pressures. Your absence creates a vacuum that draws attention not through performance, but through authentic presence. This is the power of disappearing. You are no longer chasing approval, validation, or recognition. You simply exist, grounded and aligned with yourself. And in that space, respect quietly replaces familiarity. People feel your depth without needing to understand it. Your words carry weight, not because you speak more, but because you have chosen to speak less. Silence, when intentional, is not emptiness. It is authority. It is presence. It is the subtle yet undeniable mark of someone who has begun the journey of becoming their true self. Disappearing is not withdrawal from life. It is an invitation for the world, and for yourself, to recognize the power of your authentic existence. When you step back from constant visibility, from the endless stream of demands and expectations, something remarkable happens. Your identity begins to rewire itself. Carl Jung understood that most people measure themselves through others' eyes. They seek approval, validation, and recognition. Their thoughts, emotions, and decisions are often filtered through what the world expects. But disappearance interrupts this pattern. When you intentionally withdraw, your mind stops seeking permission. Your energy is no longer scattered. Your unconscious begins to reorganize itself around truth rather than expectation. Disappearing trains the brain to seek alignment instead of attention. It shifts your measure of worth from external approval to internal authenticity. You stop asking, "Am I enough for them?" and start asking, "Am I aligned with myself?" This rewiring is subtle but powerful. It touches every area of life. The way you communicate, the way you make decisions, the way you respond to challenges. Jung would say that identity is not built in the noise of the world, but revealed in the silence of self. When you disappear, you allow the unconscious to reorganize, to integrate parts of yourself that were ignored, denied, or suppressed. Over time, this transformation becomes visible, not because you are performing differently, but because your presence itself has shifted. You no longer react compulsively. You no longer seek constant validation. You begin to act from the center of your own authority. Disappearance is not retreat. It is evolution. It is the conscious process of becoming who you were always meant to be, a self so coherent, so grounded, that the world recognizes it not by what you say, but by the power of who you have become. Disappearing is not permanent isolation. Carl Jung never advocated running away from life. Instead, he taught that withdrawal is a conscious preparation for transformation. When you step back from the constant noise, the endless expectations, and the draining energy of the world, you are not leaving life behind. You are allowing your inner self to grow in ways impossible while constantly exposed. After a period of disappearance, when you return, you are no longer the same person who left. Your boundaries are stronger. Your choices are clearer. Your presence carries a weight that was absent before. You no longer seek validation in words or reactions. You no longer react automatically to the chaos around you. You engage selectively, intentionally, and with clarity. The world may see your absence as a loss, but your return is a quiet statement of alignment. You do not need to prove yourself, explain yourself, or perform for anyone. Your transformation is visible because it comes from within. Jung called this the result of individuation, the process of integrating the conscious and unconscious, the light and the shadow, until the self is whole. Disappearing allows you to face fears, confront the shadow, and reclaim energy once scattered to masks and expectations. Returning with that integration makes your presence authentic, grounded, and magnetic. The return is not about seeking attention. It is about embodying your true self. And when you do, your life flows differently. People sense depth. Decisions carry weight, and interactions resonate because you are no longer a reflection of their expectations. You return transformed, not to impress, not to compete, not to perform, but simply to exist, fully, aligned, and undeniably authentic. The final stage of disappearing is the emergence of your true self, a self that does not compete, chase, or perform for recognition. Carl Jung understood that authenticity naturally draws attention, not through effort, but through presence. Most people spend their lives trying to be noticed. They seek validation, approval, and admiration. They chase influence, recognition, or popularity. But the authentic self does not operate this way. It does not need to prove anything. It does not seek to dominate, impress, or outperform others. When you disappear, when you reclaim your energy and integrate your shadow, you stop performing for the world. You stop reacting to every expectation, every demand, every opinion. In that stillness, your energy transforms. You no longer chase attention. Attention begins to come to you. You no longer compete for relevance. Relevance follows your presence. You no longer seek to impress. People are naturally drawn to your authenticity. Jung would argue that this is the result of individuation and alignment. When the conscious and unconscious merge, the self becomes coherent. It is no longer fragmented by masks, social pressures, or fear. It simply exists fully, integrated, and whole. The power of the true self is subtle but undeniable. It attracts not by force, but by resonance. It commands respect without demand. It inspires curiosity without explanation. Disappearing was never about hiding. It was about creating the conditions for your inner self to awaken. And when you return, after facing your shadow, cultivating solitude, and reclaiming energy, you do not need to compete. You simply attract because the world senses that you are complete, grounded, and utterly aligned with who you truly are. The journey we've explored today is not easy. Disappearing, withdrawing, and confronting your inner world takes courage, patience, and discipline. Yet, as Carl Jung taught, It is the only path to becoming who you truly are. You may feel fear, you may feel doubt, you may even question if this process is worth it. But remember, the mask you wear, the approval you chase, and the constant noise you absorb are all keeping your true self hidden. Disappearance is not running away, it is creating the space for transformation. In solitude, you face your shadow. In silence, you hear the voice of your unconscious. In withdrawal, you reclaim energy and authority that was once scattered to the world. And when you return, you are no longer the same. You return grounded, aligned, and whole. You no longer compete for recognition. You attract it naturally. You no longer react to the chaos around you. You act from your own center. You do not seek to please, because you simply embody authenticity. This is the power of Jungian individuation. The privilege of a lifetime is not popularity, approval, or comfort. It is the ability to become undivided, integrated, and fully yourself. So if you are ready, step back from the distractions. Face your shadow. Listen to the whispers of your unconscious, and give yourself permission to disappear long enough to emerge transformed. Because when you do, the world will not need you to perform, and you will not need the world to define you. You will simply be whole, authentic, and undeniably true.